When I was growing up in high school, I had a handful of jobs. I worked at a greenhouse. I used to be an IT guy at my high school. I worked at a local pizza place. Pretty typical first job sort of things. All in all, I was blessed with bosses who were fair and coworkers who were actually fun to work with. The pay was never great in high school, but every time the minimum wage went up, it felt like this huge increase in pay. But then when my wife and I were first married, and I was making just a little bit more than minimum wage, and in order to pay our modest bills, I was working long hours at a job that was both physically and mentally demanding, leaving very little of me left at the end of the day. We felt trapped, and we were looking for freedom. Have you ever felt trapped in a job, or maybe by your financial situation in general? Multiply that by just a whole lot, and you're beginning to understand how the Israelites must have felt. Generations spent stuck in slavery. So as we've been looking at fire in the Exodus, we've seen how God has provided for the Israelites miraculously, time and time again. But it wasn't enough for some who began calling God's blessings evil. Go ahead and turn to Nehemiah chapter 9, verse 17 through 19. They refused to obey and were not mindful of the wonders that you, God, performed among them. But they stiffened their neck and appointed a leader to return to their slavery in Egypt. But you are a God ready to forgive, gracious and merciful, slow to anger and abounding in steadfast love. And you did not forsake them, even when they made for themselves a golden calf and said, "This is your God who brought you up out of Egypt." And they committed great blasphemies. And you in all your mercies did not forsake them in the wilderness. The pillar of cloud to lead them in the way did not depart from them by day, nor the pillar of fire by night to light for them the way by which they should go. So whatever the Israelites had in mind, whatever their motivation was, whatever they did what they did, God did not supply this vision for the golden calf. It wasn't His plan. And so many of the Israelites saw the predictability and safety of slavery as a good thing. They called this newfound freedom evil. In short, they wanted to return to slavery. Now, in the same way today, when we experience freedom from sin, we can still slip back into old habits. We're looking for that predictability of slavery to sin. Like the Israelites, we can even go to great lengths to call the good things that God has done for us evil, and the evil things that He's called us away from good. So here's the problem. God doesn't really seem safe or predictable at all. What He wanted the Israelites to do was unprecedented in human history. They had asked Him for freedom, but the reality is they couldn't handle the real freedom. They just actually wanted a higher minimum wage. They had asked to be saved from Egypt, but what they really wanted was just a better position within Egyptian society. They'd asked for a new identity because they were done being slaves. And God, in return, He brought them back to their true identity as His chosen people. It was more than many of them bargained for. But the God of Israel, and if we're following Jesus, our God, He doesn't work by human control. He doesn't work according to our expectations. You can't see Him. You might not know what He's going to do or say. And yet, as the Israelites found out, disobedience comes with real consequences. They couldn't understand where their next meal was going to come from. God didn't telegraph all of His moves. He just said, "Trust me." They wanted freedom from the Egyptians, but they were still holding on to slavery to sin. And God wanted them to stop sinning, to stop being slaves. But it can be hard. They really wanted just a light version of Yahweh, an a la carte God. But God is one. There's no a la carte option for the Israelites. There's no a la carte option today when we choose to follow Jesus. So I'd like to know, why do people who claim to follow God continue to call good evil and evil good? Leave a comment or an example below, or email me, weston@gracepoint.ca. I'm looking forward to hearing from you, and I'd also love to see you come out for one of our fireside discussions. We're having them every Sunday at 6:30 p.m. this summer. Thank you so much. God bless.